Hey everybody, welcome to Outlier on Air, episode 427. This is the podcast where we talk to the founders, disruptors, and mavens of the world. As always, I'm your host, Ever Gonzalez. Thank you for being with us. On today's episode, we have Amy Edwards. Amy is a musician, podcast host, writer, and activist. I think you're really going to like Amy. We talked about living a full life on your own terms, how she juggles her hectic career while raising two young girls, and finding peace in a crazy world. It was a fun episode. Amy is in the trenches, fighting every day while loving what she does. She was honest about her past mistakes and the struggle of following her dreams while trying to figure out how to bring in a reasonable income. On a side note, Amy even inspired me to finally pick up that guitar at 43 years old. So because of her, I bought a guitar. I'm trying to figure out how to play it, and I'm going to return and report in a year or so with her and see how it goes. Anyway, you're going to enjoy it. Take a listen.
Time, weather, and always case the various
Amy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're excited to have you. It's we've been playing around for a little while trying to get you on the show, and we've had technical difficulties and misscheduling on my end, all that good stuff. But finally, we have you on the show, and so we're very, very excited about
I had something come up too. I had technical issues, so that's just the way it goes sometimes, and you just got to roll with it and keep on trying. And I'm a big believer in that.
And like you mentioned earlier, it was meant to be today. So let's get this underway.
Yeah.
Now, when we have people on the show, when we introduce them, we're like, founder of this, or, they're doing this and that. With you have so many things going on that we had a hard time trying to figure out, well, how do we really introduce her, right? Because, musician, DJ, writer, actress, podcaster, mom, ton of stuff.
It's annoying, isn't it? You're like, what is her title? I don't even quite know. So on my business card, I'm ditching it now on my next business card, but I had all around fun bitch on there because I was like, I don't know what
that works.
It works. You know what? I think when it comes down to it, I use my voice for everything I do, and that's really important to me. And so I don't know what the title of that would be, but I work for myself, and I end up using my voice in a lot of different ways.
And that's what we love, and that's why we want to have you on the show to talk about. You're doing things your own way, which is very attractive to us, right? We look for the outliers, we look for the people that are doing different things, and you're definitely doing it. And there's been some history there, right? Some ups and downs and all that good stuff, and so we want to kind of dig into that here in this episode.
For sure. And that's one of the things that I wanted to hit on for everybody that listens to your stuff is that it takes time, and there's nothing wrong with just figuring out as you go. And that's a big part of everything that I've been doing is figuring it out as I go. And I'm already, mid to late 40s, and I feel like I'm just now getting a real clear picture of how all the puzzle pieces fit. Because sometimes you can do all these things that you really enjoy, but you don't know necessarily where it's leading or how it's all going to tie together in your life, or just what you're even going to be able to do with it. And I finally feel like I'm getting a clear picture. And, I just hope that resonates with somebody, that it takes time and it's not magically always there. I just keep building habits and staying on top of what I do and staying consistent. And if you can stay consistent, then you're just going to slowly make progress over time. And pretty soon it'll all start to get clear, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I like about this story is that, we hear all these success stories from these entrepreneurs, these musicians that hit it big or that find their passion at an early age.
Yeah, I live in Austin, so I hear it all the time. That's all they do around here.
And what I like about your story is that you didn't really find, maybe you had the passion, but it didn't start to click this way until a little bit later in your life.
Right. So I opened a clothing store. I did a lot of fashion-y type stuff when I was younger, and I did enjoy that, but it's retail is its own jam, it's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was glad to get out of that. But as I had both my kids, some friends wanted to start learning instruments, and saying yes to that, just saying yes to something that was way out of my comfort zone, has led me on a path of all sorts of things that I didn't really see coming. And it's brought me back around to my first love, which is radio, which is I'm sitting at a radio station that I work at right now. And, I love podcasts and I love what I've learned doing that kind of thing. So it's been a total journey, but that's part of it, is just embracing like the lessons that you learn and then figuring out how to be vulnerable enough and like get rid of fear enough to share what you've learned and share your failures. And I don't really believe in failure. I shouldn't even have used that word, because I believe more like everything just keeps you going and leads you to the next thing. Like failure, quote unquote, is just part of it. You just stumble and get back up and learn and keep moving. And so I don't know, did that answer your question at all?
Absolutely. No, that it makes so much sense. With our show, we have 400 plus episodes. I've been on stage more than 200 times. I'd like to think that I'm out there and I try to do more and more and more to challenge myself. But I do catch myself from time to time, actually more than I'd like to admit, saying, "Well, I'm 43. I don't know that I want to learn new thing that I want to kind of get into." Right. One of those things is I want to learn how to play guitar, but then I'm sitting around thinking, I have 3 kids, I have a couple mortgages, I have this show, like, and that's why I
Right.
make excuses, right? But you, who are, a parent to
Two girls.
two
Hmm.
girls,
Hmm.
and so and all these other things you're doing, but you learned how to play an instrument and kind of follow this whole thing,
You
like we
just
mentioned,
have
a
to,
little bit later in life. So what
you're
was that one thing?
I want to talk about you playing the guitar for a second.
Okay, sure.
So, you need to do it. If you're dreaming of it, do it. But it's so easy. I think that's a great example of saying like, oh, but like, think of a year from now. What if you started today? And like, so, and where would you be a year from now?
Mhm.
If you played for 5 minutes, I'm actually conducting an experiment on this right now on my Instagram. And I'm just calling it 5 minutes a day. So I sit down, I'm terrible. I started playing at 38. I started playing electric guitar, 39. And, so I didn't play acoustic. It's hard to play acoustic if you've picked one up. And so I'm terrible at finger picking. And so in March, I was like, I'm going to start 5 minutes a day finger picking. And I mean, if you go look at the first ones, it's like plunk, plunk, terrible. But now in 5 minutes a day, I am actually pretty good and pretty solid at it. And so it's just a matter, it's like I was talking about with those little habits. It's just a matter of sitting down and do it, because you will make progress over time. And how many times have you kicked yourself and been like, oh man, if I had
Mhm.
started that
Mhm.
then, you
Mhm.
know what I'd be doing now? It's the exact same thing. So just get it starting and building that habit and exercising that muscle just a little bit every day is what makes a difference. So I think I want you to get back to me. I want you to play guitar.
You know what? I'm gonna do it.
Your kids will love it.
I'm gonna do it. It's so my wife plays, and my kids are pretty musical as well.
Oh,
I've never been able to do it, but I guess I never put the effort into it like I needed
mm.
to. But
I know.
it sounds simple enough. 5 minutes a day. Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Any,
it's not like the Matrix. We can't just download it into our heads. Damn.
not yet anyway, right?
Not yet.
Okay,
So,
I'm in.
okay, good.
I
Okay.
will I
What
will
was the question?
report.
What was the
Yeah.
question you were asking? Sorry, I derailed us.
No. It was one of those things where it makes so much sense to be able to do it, and you said it perfectly, right? In a year from now, it's coming. So either
Right.
you can learn how to play the guitar or whatever you want to do, right? Whatever that one thing is that you want to come, whether it's working out or whatever. That
Hmm.
year is going to come and go. Might as well start it.
You might as well start. And really, it doesn't really take that much time. That's one of my things, is like meditating every day. Let's take that. Like just these little things that I try to incorporate into every day. And it's kind of a pain. And I don't get it every day. I don't. And I'm not even successful at whatever it is every single day. But so what? You're at least trying and you're at least putting in the effort to move forward toward that goal. You're showing the universe that you're showing up and you're making the effort. And that makes a huge difference in whatever it is you're dreaming of getting to, right?
Yeah, I agree, and I love
Yeah.
it, and I think that's great advice for those that are listening. Right? I
Mhm.
think we all know deep down inside that it can be done and that we should do it. And when we hear other people that are right in the trenches making it happen for their own lives,
Yeah.
it's kind of inspiring.
And I talked to a lot of people who are thinking about starting podcasts and stuff. And my podcast journey was interesting because I kind of tossed it around, since I do have a radio background. I started, doing radio in college, just like DJ type work. And I really did enjoy it. I did it out of college, but then for some reason I just kind of fell off, but it's come back my way periodically. And I do enjoy doing voiceover and all that. But anyway, for podcasting, about 4 years ago, a friend of mine has a sound company here in Austin called Word. And he was like, "We're going to start a podcast studio. We need some beta testers. Will you
Mm.
do one?" And I was like, "Sure." So I just jumped in and didn't really I gave it some thought, but I didn't really know what I was doing. It was a very learn as you go experience, which is fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But as I progressed, I was complete learn as you go. It was called the Real Show Podcast. And it was it never had that like real direction and real solid like elevator pitch and that what is your podcast about, and I would kind of not have a real clear answer. I still don't have, like, listen to me talk about it. I still don't. It was real conversations with people was the general aim. But I did some different things with it, but over time I realized that I was devoting time and energy to something that wasn't clear and that I needed to end it and start something new. So that's what I'm in the middle of right now. But it took me some it's like you get like some pride and ego attached to whatever this project is that you're working on, and you think, well, no, I need to make this work because I've already built it this far.
Yeah.
But you know what? You just have to kind of go, you know what? This might have run its course, and now I can take what I've learned and hopefully people will show up. So I'm working on starting a new affirmations podcast called Go Aff Yourself with Jill, who I've been working with. It's a good name, right?
That's right.
Um and then also I'm working on probably my own podcast, which is going to be called tentatively Rock Your Life, because that's a lot of what my platform is, and that's the direction I'm moving. My goal, my big goal is to have my own Sirius XM talk show by the time I'm 50. So we'll see.
And
That's
that's a very
the goal.
specific goal, which I like, right? I mean, you're doing this. Um,
It didn't come specific and clear until probably like February of this year, and I was suddenly like, "That's it. That's what I need to be doing." So I'm just trying to put it out, saying it like to you and putting it out there in the world. It's like, it's just the more you do it, the easier it gets. You got to just keep putting it out there. So
Agreed. When we started this company, we didn't know what we had, right? I mean, we kind of stumbled upon a lot of the things that we're doing. We started a show just to talk to cool people, and then that turned into a co-working space, and it turned into events, and it turned into
wow,
a few different things. But I think for the first 2.5 years, we were like just kind of having fun, right? Making some mistakes and all that stuff, and then we started to get a little bit more focused, kind of like you. And now
yeah,
you have a very specific goal, just like we have a very specific goal. But one of the things that you mentioned that I want to kind of go back into this, it's this whole thing that sometimes you start something and it's not working, or maybe that's just the first step, and it's okay to kind of cut it to kind of move on. I think a lot of times when we start these projects, we think about them as our baby, right? And
yeah.
so it's hard to kind of cut that off, saying, well, either we in our minds we're like, well, we failed, I don't want to fail, so I'm gonna keep dragging it on until we make it work. And sometimes that's okay, a lot of times that's not okay, right? It's okay to be like, this was the first version or the first step, and now I got to go do this.
I totally agree. And when you're really forcing it rather than feeling a flow, you're like, and I can't even say like, okay, if you are forcing it, maybe you need to stop, because sometimes it just takes that hard work. But you got to really feel passionate about it, I guess. And and then you just got to sometimes like look at it and say, you know what? No, I've learned what I've needed to here, and then you move on. But what you guys did is learning as you go too, and
Mhm.
I think that is just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and it takes a while sometimes, and that's okay, in my opinion.
Me too. I mean, I think I've gotten easier on myself about that over the years, because I mean, even 5 or 6 years ago, I was like expecting things to be, you do it and then it's like magically like huge or everyone's listening or whatever, but it just doesn't work that way. It is just small and incremental no matter what you do. Even overnight successes, they're not overnight successes,
That's right.
like
That's right.
that's that whole myth of that. So yeah, I'm completely on the same page as you, especially as outliers, or especially when you're doing things your own way. It's just you're gonna figure it out. People are gonna be telling you one thing, and you're gonna be like, maybe not,
Yeah.
maybe not for me, but you respect it, and then you just keep sorting it out, which is what I've done. I started, I like to write, and so I started a website for a while, for about a year and a half or 2 years, that ROI magazine, which I just have sort of left for a while. Like, I've just let it sit there now, but I have a lot of writing on there that I really enjoyed doing and getting out what I've been learning. But that just was another stepping stone to me figuring out how I'm going to get my message across, like what I've learned from taking up music and taking up acting at 40 years old. Like, what have I learned, and how am I going to share it with other people um, to kind of reach across into different areas, whatever their area is. Okay, here's how I overcame this fear, and here's how you can too. Here's
Yeah,
how.
with the podcast is no joke, right? There's some time and effort you need to put into this. The magazine, the writing obviously takes some time as well. What
Mhm.
I like about this so far, and we'll get into the music and a couple other things here in just a sec, but what I like so far from what we're hearing with your journey is the passion projects and the things that you're doing are there, it feels like, to help others as well. Telling your story is going to help other people, and you kind of have that feeling of, in our opinion anyway, of putting it out there and saying it's okay. Let's go ahead and do it. Here are some tips, and here are some things that you can do. Here's how we did it. Here's how we kind of, you don't like the word failed, but here's how we failed, or
Yeah.
corrected our course. And so, what's the motivation behind all this? I mean, who is
I
this for? The podcast, the magazine?
I
Who
think
are you
that
attracting?
um I think that all the creative stuff that I do, it's not like I make a lot of money from music or anything like that, yet. Let's go ahead and say,
That's right. That's right.
but it's a creative drive that I have to get out, right? And so all of that feeds this other side where I can take what I've learned by pushing myself in those instances, and then share it with people via podcast or via writing, and I can say, all right. And that's what's building into the talk show that I'm thinking of. And like, the creativity and what I learned there is a necessary part of my life and my soul and my growth as a human, and getting in catharsis, I suppose. And then it feeds this, like, it's really hard to do. It's really hard. It's been very hard for me to even create this last album. I had some real blocks in it that I had to push through, and it that was so incredible to learn. And then I'm able to take that and just figure out how I can relate that to anything that someone does, and just say, yeah, totally, I get it. And then how do we overcome? How do you build habits? How do you get over any fears that you have about starting this business or taking this big risk, or really staying strong in what you believe in and going on even though people think you're crazy. I don't
Uh,
know.
so, what have been some of the challenges up until this point?
Oh God, everything.
Uh,
I mean, um, in what? I would say, like, making money is one of my biggest challenges and one of my biggest focuses right now, because I really want to, set up my life for my girls, and figure out how to make money at a podcast. I mean, you do it for so long for free and figuring it out, and I've figured a lot out and how to make it sustainable, because you don't want to have to, like, a week goes by really quickly. And if you're recording every week, you got to have a sustainable way of setting it up, editing, and getting it done fast. And so I could probably write a pamphlet on that and help somebody, but I probably should. But anyway, like, so now that I've got that stuff kind of settled, then I figure, next steps are like actually making this viable. And the viability of the things that I do is really a strong focus for me right now. Um, but over the years, the biggest challenges, have been, I'm in Austin, so everybody plays music. So it's, getting out there and doing it is pretty normal, but it still was challenging for me to find confidence at a later age and come out as an artist in my 40s in a town where people are really established and really good at what they do. And here I am just starting out and being like, okay, I'm going to get up here and just bang some shit out on the guitar. And you know what? Getting accepted by that community really meant a lot to me. And they have accepted me. And it's been a wonderful feeling and very validating in that regard. But finding the confidence and overcoming fear and, you know, South by Southwest, and you know, you just face rejection in a lot of ways, but you got to just keep on keeping on.
And that's a big one. And I think that keeps a lot of us from kind of following your path to doing things that you're passionate about and things that you enjoy, right? I don't think that entrepreneurship or kind of taking these steps in life are right for everybody anytime, right? I think sometimes we have to build up to it, right?
For
To be able
sure.
to
Yeah.
be in a position where we can follow these things and can kind of be creative in this way. For those that are listening that are kind of on the fence, that have a 9 to 5 or right or whatever, but are afraid, like me, to start the music lessons or
Yeah.
to start that business or to kind of be the artist or go out for auditions and things like that. Um, what clicked, right? We talked about you started out later in life. Something must have happened or something in your mind must have happened where you're like, screw it, I'm just going to do it. What was that moment like?
I don't even, I wish there was just one moment, but I think it's just doing it over and over. And finally you're like, it's really not that big a deal. You
Yeah.
know, you're like, no one is like getting hurt. No, like in the big picture of things, people don't care about you as much as you think they do.
That's
They're
right.
not spending near as much time thinking about what you're doing. They're thinking about what they're doing. And so I guess just I think it's also product of age. You know, you said you're in your 40s. Like I think just like over time we start to go, maybe this doesn't matter as much as I thought it
That's
did, you
right.
know? And like, because really when it comes down to it, it's a blip on the radar. Like, and people don't really care that much. And I think it's taken me a long time to get there and realize it. And the more I do it, the easier it becomes. So yeah.
It's funny. I when we kind of started this whole thing, my background is in logistics, right? Freight management. So it was not sexy. It was not, but I was good at it. And then when we started Outlier, I remember thinking, well, I don't want to put myself out there speaking or doing the podcast because what are my this was, I was in my mid 30s at that point. What are my
Uh-huh.
high school friends going to think? People that I haven't seen or talked to in years. I'm thinking, but we're connected on social media. I remember thinking, what are they going to think of me if I do this? But who cares, right?
I
At the
had
end of the
people
day,
that
who
said that.
cares?
Yeah. At the end of the day, who cares? And I bet a lot of them came out to you and were like, oh man, I love what you're doing.
They did actually.
Uh-huh. They do. It's funny like that, right? And they're like, "You're so inspiring. I want to do this." And then you're like, "Oh my God, holy crap." So yeah, I did have an instance like that. I mean, I had a friend that like when I first recorded my first solo album, she was like, "You're really doing this, huh?" Because we'd known each
Nice,
other for 10 years. And
nice.
here you are breaking expectations because people like you the way they know you. They're like, okay, that works for me. And you just stay right there, how I think of you. And then um and then you just start doing something else. Like you're like, well, now I'm gonna go play guitar on stage and like wear leather. And
Nice.
at 41. And
Yeah,
they're like, hold up, wait, aren't you a mom?
that's
Shouldn't you
funny.
fit in this box over here? And don't you have your 9 to 5 and all that? And you're like, maybe, I don't know. No, you
And it's
know,
funny that shouldn't affect us, but it does,
it does
right?
affect us.
Yeah.
Especially, you know, if your family is real involved and that kind of thing. Both of my parents have passed away, and I think that, and of course, I miss them very much, but I think that there was something liberating about that for me as a woman or whatever, that a lot of expectations were lifted. And I suddenly was like, I have pretty much the freedom to do whatever I want. No one's, I mean, I got kids, but what do they care? So, you know, I think that that played a part in my development as what everything else that I'm doing and opening up my voice to be really honest. Like when we started out, you were like, is there anything you don't want to discuss? And I'm like, no, like literally you could ask me about my sex life and I'd probably be like, all right, let's get in it. You
Mhm.
know, let's talk about it. So like, I just believe that like, be open, be honest and let it out and figure it out. And like, that's, it's tough to get there, but That's what we have to do. And last year, I had a really tough year last year. I started to, my husband and I split up, and I filed for divorce, but I wasn't using my voice. And, that's where it lies for me. And I, I lost my voice. I started losing my voice. I probably lost my voice like 6 or 7 times last year. And then I got sick to where my sinuses were clogged. I couldn't speak regularly. I couldn't sing. And I started to become depressed. And I had to do a lot of work around that, including having sinus surgery. But it was all just manifesting because I wasn't using my voice. And so it gave me a real perspective on how I need to speak up in my own life, and I need to be completely honest with who I am and with others or with anyone I'm in a relationship with. And so it spilled over into every aspect. And it's also made me really value my voice and value the opportunity to share it on the radio or on a podcast or singing or through writing even. So yeah, I'm sorry, I went off on a
That's
long
no,
tangent.
no, and that's huge, right? That you understand that most people should understand that. I had a picture in my mind of what a 43-year-old man looks like and acts like and should be, right, the position in their life and all that stuff.
It sounds so
And
grown up.
that's right, right. And I
Mhm.
don't feel like a 43-year-old, and I'm doing things that I didn't realize that I was going to be doing at this age and things like. But it's great, right? I
Hey,
don't live a conventional life, and
no.
all the festivals that we host in all different cities and the different projects that we do, I bring my family with me. We're homeschooling our kids, and so they come, and it's part of our thing. And they help the kids, 9, 11 and 7, and they come and they have a good time, and they're selling T-shirts, and they're helping people find their seats and all that good stuff, and it's fantastic.
That's so cool.
It
I
works for us.
Imagine the gift that you're giving them. That is such a cool life, such an interesting thing. They're going to be so interesting because they're going to know so much. They're picking up everything you're doing. They're like little sponges, and that's really cool. And you do get these preconceived notions, and luckily of what adulthood looks like or
That's right.
fatherhood. And you know what? It's not what it used to be. And I love that all those molds are breaking. I mean, here I am I'm turning 47 this month, and I'm like, you know what? I don't care. So what? I'm going to, live life on my terms, just like you say the homeschooling and all that. I got a little warm in my heart when I heard that. That's really cool.
Good, yeah, and it's working for us, right? And it might not work for everybody, but people need to find that one thing that does work, so that there's, I think that eventually, and not always, and not at every age, and all that good stuff, and everybody's different. I think there can be a balance between, being responsible and obviously paying the mortgage, or the rent or whatever it is, and kind of doing the things that you're passionate about. And
Yeah. And that's the
again,
trick.
sometimes you have to grind for 5, 10 years to be able to get yourself in that position. But I think it's possible eventually for most
Oh,
people.
for sure. And for sure, you're going to have to grind for years to get there and hustle and build habits and work. But I mean, but a big piece of this whole thing is letting go of those expectations or letting go of those preconceived ideas that you have. And then also overcoming fear, overcoming any fear around it. Like, oh, shit, what if I can't? Oh, can I cuss on this? I can, right?
Absolutely.
Sorry, I have kind of a bad mouth. And so, can I overcome all these little fears that'll crop up around it? So, yeah, I mean, that's just part of the grind too, is getting over those expectations and fears and all those little things that can eat at you.
I still want to get into the music, what it
Okay.
is, the mood and all that stuff. And then I want to get into the books as well. But
Okay.
before we get into that, you're a female in Austin playing music, being a podcaster, right? A DJ, all that good stuff. Any challenges there? And what do your kids, what do your daughters think about their mom wearing leather on stage, being a rocker, being all this stuff? What does that dynamic look like?
I've been surprised because I have one that's just become a teenager. She's starting high school. So I'm always like, do I embarrass you? Like a Jerry Springer episode where
That's
my
right.
mom dresses too young. But no, she's actually really proud of me. And both kids are. They don't pay that much attention to what I do. They
Mhm.
semi do, like they don't really listen to my music. They've heard it. It's that kind of that vibe. And and so I think it really does inspire them. And my younger daughter is just picking up the ukulele and starting. She can sing and she's starting to do it too. My older daughter is already like a pro practically. She's in School of Rock and they're playing ACL. And I
Nice.
mean, I know, I'm like, whatever. So
That's
I'm
huge.
like, good job at 14. You're like, I haven't gotten an artist pass to ACL, but um, anyway, so anyway, I think that it rubs off a lot, and I'm curious to see in the long run how it affects them. So yeah, so
Well, you're
there's
the
that.
trailblazer, right, in that family.
Yeah, I think so.
If their mom can do it, and you happen to pick music and these things, right? They can kind of, even if they don't follow your steps into music and all that stuff, they're going to push into whatever they're interested in because they saw their mom do it.
I hope so. That's been my goal the entire time. Like since I picked up that guitar first, I was like, the main goal of this is probably just to show my kids that you can do anything you want at absolutely any age. Just freaking go for it.
I love it. Let's talk about the
Mhm.
music.
Okay.
What kind of music? How would you describe it?
I'm a rock artist.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I get kind of restless to where I have to push boundaries and do something new. And so, I've done the rock thing and I've done clubs in Austin and all that. I can't. I probably could figure out a way to go on tour, but for me, it was a little more limiting. I'm divorced from both my kids' dads, and so I'm very tied to Austin as far as like their schedules and things like that. So that wasn't exactly something that was in the cards for me, and I'm okay with that. But I I get, I guess, just restless. Like I want to try something new within my creative outlets. And so music wise, I got an idea to do this double album last year, or I worked on it for a couple of years. It's called Magic. And so the whole concept behind it was about transformation. And the artistic point behind it was that you can take anything in your life and using your own magic and power, you can transform it into something else. So it's a double album. The first one's rock and the second one's a 90s trip hop. And
Mhm.
the songs, it's the same songs just transformed into a different version. So we recorded the rock one first and then took about 6 months off. And then I really didn't even know if we'd ever finish it because it was just a big project. And then as my divorce started, the second album just came right out. And so it turned out to be a very natural progression that really reflected in my own life as I transformed everything in my own life at the same time, which I was kind of obsessed with the idea of change and transformation. And I knew things in my life had to change. And that's probably why I conceived of this album in the first place. And so it's a piece of art, really, and it's meant to be listened to in an experiential way. It's each one is about 30 minutes long, and it's just we drew from a lot of like Pink Floyd and things that are very experiential and that you can just put on your headphones and zone out for 30 minutes. And they're meant to be listened to all the way around. There is no real beginning or end. And so I was really glad to get that project completed because after you work on something for a couple years like that, you're like, okay, let's get this out in the world. And at that point, then I lost my voice. And so I was sick when we were scheduled to release it last year. And just among other setbacks, I was like, you know what? I'm going to still put it out. I didn't end up performing very much, but I'm hoping to some more this fall with the magic stuff. So we'll see how that shakes out. But I'm exceptionally proud of that album. And now my producer friend, a very close friend of mine, he was my co-producer on Magic. His name is AJ Vallejo, and we're working on writing a musical now here in Austin. So
You must be
just
not busy enough, right?
well, I'm like, why not? Why not another project? When you got 10, what's one more? And
So
so
what was the response to that album?
I'd say overall really good.
Mhm.
People have really been positive in their response within it. So it was another thing where we didn't let fear or expectations get to us. We just decided to throw off any conventions and just go for it. And if we liked it and if it resonated with us, then we went for it. And that's what we did. And so, and writing the transformation one was writing the whole thing was a big challenge for me too. And I'm proud of what I wrote and what we came up with. So yeah,
It sounds like it's different than a lot of the things that are out there.
it is different.
Experimenting
Yeah.
with
I'll
the
send it to
music.
you.
Oh
You can
yeah,
check
that'd be great.
it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what's the goal with the music? I mean, what is this going to look like in 2 to 3 years?
That's a great question. I don't know. I think after that project, I was ready to figure out something different. And so I'm excited about writing this musical with AJ. And I don't know. I mean, like I am doing finger picking now. Like I said, I'm doing that 5 minutes a day, and now I'm starting to think, oh, maybe I should. I'm starting to work on a cover of something, and I'm like, maybe I should actually record something like this. So I just kind of let it go, and then suddenly I'll get obsessed with something, and I'll be like, okay, now I join songwriting groups from time to time around here in Austin. There's a bunch going on, and so I try to keep my writing chops up. It's just like anything else. As long as you're writing or podcasting or whatever it is, it's a muscle. You got to use it. And so I try to keep writing at least, and then I'll end up getting some together, and who knows, put out a bluegrass EP. I don't know. You never know what's going to pop up. So yeah,
I love that if there's something you want to do, you just go and do it.
I do. I just go and do it. How about that?
And I'm assuming that it's not always easy, it's not always pretty, but you can still work on it until you're comfortable with it.
Yeah, and the more times you dive in and figure something out, then the more confident you get that, other people figure this out, I can too. And if it sucks, it sucks. So what? But you
That's
just
right.
can't
So
you can't dwell on perfection. You have to more just go, all right, I'm going to get this the very best I can right now. And then I'm going to put it out there, and I'm going to move forward, or move onward, maybe is a better word. And so, yeah, I mean, don't you feel that way sometimes? Like, even when you're editing and stuff, you're just like, it may not be perfect, but it's really good right now. And
yeah.
that's it, right?
Well, it's one of the things that we kind of pride ourselves in, and maybe we shouldn't, but I still do. With these conversations, right? I
Hmm.
don't care if there are, if we're stuttering or if there's a long
Either.
pause or any of that. We hit
Right.
record, and we put some a bumper in the beginning and in the end with a little bit of music. But this conversation is going to go out as is because it's real, and I don't want it to be too polished and all those things. Even the people that we have on our stages, when we were doing entrepreneurial conferences, now we're doing podcast festivals, right? We don't bring in professional speakers. um, it's boring to me to,
Right.
I don't want to hire somebody that they make a living off of um, speaking, right? I want cool people doing cool things, and they happen to be okay on stage. But even if they're not, right, even if they're stuttering, even if they're doing whatever, but they have a good story, I
Yeah.
would much rather have those people there than the professional, very polished guy that's going to say, you can do it. Come on. I don't care about that stuff.
I think that is just modern now. Like,
Yeah.
I think that is the direction we're going. The stuff I listen to, so I'm working in radio right now. So there's some people here in radio that have the old mentality. And I'm a child of, yes, the 80s, 90s,
Nice.
but also I'm listening to all sorts of podcasts. I'm listening to exactly what you just said, where it's way more off the cuff. If I'm listening to self help, it's like Mel Robbins just like yakking away on her Instagram
Mhm.
live or something. It's like it's way more off the cuff, and no one cares about that perfection anymore.
That's
And
right.
that's what's modern. And it's been interesting in radio now, to try and mesh those when I'm meeting up with people that are still in that older mindset. So, but yeah, I feel like everything you just said 100% is like where it's at now. Like, that's what
It,
we're doing.
yeah, and people are responding to it, right? I think we can smell them coming from a mile away. Those that, again, and I'm not knocking those that kind of put more time and effort into the editing, and whether it's a podcast or radio show or whatever, right? Because that's needed too, I guess, in some aspects. Just not here, not with what we're
Right.
doing.
No, not
Uh,
what we're doing. I mean,
yeah.
look at like the most popular podcasts, like My Favorite Murder, and those girls, they don't know what they're doing. They just go for it. And I love, and
And it
everyone
works.
loves them. It
Yeah.
totally works. Yeah. So, anyway, that's good advice for anybody, because I got involved with some other people that were about to do a podcast, and we were starting working on it, but they got way too up in their heads about it. One was a radio guy, and they got too up in their heads, and the podcast never took off, even though it had so much potential. And I was bummed. This was maybe a year and a half ago or something. And I was bummed, but I could tell that they were just focused on, like, all right, we need our format laid out. And I was like, no, man, it'll develop organically. And it
Agreed.
already is. And like, instead, they were just like, thought we had to have it all figured out. And you don't.
And I think that's what stops a lot of people from podcasting specifically. I think that they need it to be perfect before they do it. And guess what? It's never going to be perfect. And and those that are listening that are looking to start a show, I would say just go do it. And if you don't look back in a year and listen to the first few episodes, and if it's not cringeworthy or you're not embarrassed about it, then you're not doing it right.
Totally.
It's not gonna, it's gonna suck probably, and that's okay, right? But you got to get started now, I think.
Absolutely. So get ready to suck at guitar, Ever.
And I will for a long time, I'm sure. Now,
Yeah, that's okay.
yeah, agreed. Let's talk about the books as we start
Okay.
to wrap up. You on top of everything you're doing,
Oh,
writing a
I
book, right? And I've
books.
thought about this for a long time. It feels like it's a big undertaking.
Oh my God,
Uh,
it's ridiculous. It's
yeah,
ridiculous. And the
let's talk
book
about the stuff you
industry
have.
is a whole nother animal that I know absolutely nothing about. I went to Book Expo this year for my children's book. So backing up a bit, when I started doing my solo stuff with music, I was like, oh, I have an idea for a children's book. And my graphic designer was like, I want to do a children's book. And we ended up like creating this. And I love it so much. It's called Starla and the Boogie Deluxe. And her name is Jill Tito. And I co-wrote the story with my former spouse, Kevin. And I'm just really proud of it. I love it. And I have big dreams for it. But figuring out like how to get it made and all that kind of stuff was like daunting, real daunting, like more daunting than a podcast. It was tough because I was just jumping into something I knew nothing about. So that has been a major learning experience, but I've really enjoyed it. And so over the fall, I am pretty focused on that book and promoting that as school starts. And I've got somebody helping me with some school bookings and stuff like that. And then, and then there's a book that I wrote about 12 years ago for National Novel Writing Month. Have you ever heard of that?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. So you write a novel in a month. And so I did it. And then I kept working on it. And then I put it away because I was like, this sucks. And
Mhm.
then I went back and read it maybe 4 years ago, 3 years ago. And I was like, this doesn't suck after all. And so I brushed it up and just submitted it to She Writes Press, which vets everybody, but it's still a hybrid of women that have been in the publishing industry. And then they have worked on developing their own independent publishing house. So anyway, so I am publishing it through them, and I'm excited to see what happens with that. It's called The Trouble with Becoming a Witch, and it is
Hmm.
essentially a statement on when you transform your life, other people may not like it, and this woman's marriage falls apart in the story. And so because she starts to like get interested in witchcraft and stuff like that, but it's not really about witchcraft. It's more about the fact that when you change and when you start like going, wait, this is who I am and this is what I'm interested in, maybe, and then people can't handle it, and then things kind of erode and then build back up. And so that'll be out in October, on October 22nd. So
That's
I'll be
exciting.
working on those, and I'll probably tie in some of my magic album and stuff with that book. So yeah, I
So
hope to be traveling around a bit with that. So it'll be up on my website.
are there more books in you?
Yeah, I really I'm working on establishing myself as an author to build this Rock Your Life platform that I have, and to go with oh just my message and my future Sirius XM talk show and all that kind of stuff. Like I see all that, and I am just working on establishing myself. I really do like writing. So yeah, we'll see. That's hopefully in the next 20 years I'll be building that.
And we're going to have links to your music, to your books on on
Thank
our website when we publish this. But
you.
right, we want to share with our audience for sure. Now, when we have people on the show, we usually have a musician or a podcaster or a writer, right, an author or an entrepreneur. We have one of those. You are obviously
Covered,
all
like,
in.
I got you for a whole month then. Like you just
That's
can
right.
you could just rerun this.
Yeah,
Um,
it's funny. Everything we could have spent 45 minutes on your music. We could have spent 45 minutes on the books, right? For another 45 minutes on podcasting. And so as we wrap up, this is the pretty much the last question. With everything that you're doing, right, from the very beginning to now, the music, all that good stuff. What do you think? And I'm very interested in this because you have so many things going on. What are you the best at? What up until this point, that success, right, that one thing, what is it in you?
yeah, that's a great question. And that's one that I've been really exploring in the last 6, 8 months. Like, what am I really good at? And what do I really love doing? And I think It's just talking to people.
Mhm.
I think when it comes down to it, I really love like talking to people and helping them figure out like what's going on with them. And I think and overcoming fear. I think that's my like mission. Yeah.
And
Is
that's a
that
good one.
is it? I mean,
Absolutely.
it's taken me a while to get there, and I'm glad you asked me that because that's been just a huge thing with me because I keep trying all these different things, and I'm like, how do they fit together? But there's a common thread within all of this, and that's what it is. And it
And we
is
see it.
just, yeah, and it's that voice aspect. So that's what I believe it is. And so, yeah.
I like that you are battle scarred, right? You've been in the trenches. It feels like you're still in the trenches, which is a good thing in my opinion.
Hmm.
And when you're kind of looking back and helping those um, kind of get to the point where you are, right, where you're kind of living your own life. Obviously, it's not perfect. There are a lot of things that you still need to learn. There's a lot of things that still need to happen. But it's great because that's life.
It is life, and I'm real surprised, like, how much I'm enjoying getting older. Because as a woman, you're like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna sag here and there and all that." But you know what? I was, having a meeting with several other women recently, and I realized that I was the oldest one there, and I don't know, there was just, like, a sense of, like, something that came with that. I don't know if it was like authority or power or something, or just like knowing yourself. And I don't know, it just felt good. And I think that getting older, I'm getting more solid on like all these things and my own voice and being able to share and just feeling like I have more to offer. And so, and getting clearer on my past and being able to say, all right, here's some stuff that maybe we can like use and figure out like what's up with how to get through X, Y, and Z,
Mhm.
or build your business or whatever it is. So, does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. So with my wife and I have a daughter, right?
Oh,
I,
yeah.
I I think that there's nothing more satisfying or empowering or sexy, whatever you want to call it, than a confident woman doing her thing, right? Not letting society, magazines, other women, other men, right, kind of push them down or tell them that they have to look a certain way, talk a certain way, all those things. But somebody that's very comfortable in their own skin, regardless of the age, is it's
Hell
great to
yeah.
see.
I
It's
like
great to
that.
see, right?
Yes. I love that.
We
Yes.
need more. We need more of that. And so the women like you that are in that position, I think whether you like it or not, are an example. And in my opinion, again, I think have a little bit of a responsibility to help those that are coming up behind them.
Well, I like it. Yes, and thank you. We do have a responsibility for those coming up, and that's exactly what I want to showcase and be an example of. So, yeah.
And you're certainly well on your way, and you're doing it and doing it well.
Thank you. And I can't thank you enough for having me on today. I'm so glad that we got the chance to do this because I really enjoyed participating in your Outlier Festival. I got to come as an attendee and it was fantastic. I learned a lot. And so I appreciate everything that you're putting out there in the world.
Thank you so much. Well, and next time we're in Austin, you're going to have to be on the stage for sure with everything that you're doing.
Damn right. Okay. Absolutely.
Now, for those that are listening that have enjoyed this, that want to know more about you, the music, the books, all that good stuff, where can they find you online?
I'm at Real Amy Edwards on Instagram and Twitter. And then on Facebook, I do have a music Facebook, which is Amy Edwards and the Hi-Fis, but I don't post on that one as much.
Mhm.
You can find my Amy Edwards author page as well. And that's probably the best thing. Or realamyedwards.com or amyedwards.com lead you to the same place.
Fantastic. So Outliers, you can go to outlierhq.com. That's outlierhq.com. First of all, subscribe to the podcast, rate, review it, share with your friends. But there you're going to find links to Amy's websites, her social media accounts. She's the real deal. She's doing some amazing things. I think we can all learn from her and the things that she's done and the things that she's going to continue to do. So connect with her, say hello, let her know that you enjoyed this show, this episode with her. Amy, this has been amazing. We really appreciate the time that you've taken to be with us and the patience that it's taken us to get
Same
here.
here. You were patient with me too. So thank you so much. Yeah, Ever. I really appreciate it.
You've
Thank
been
you.
great, and we wish you nothing but success. And Outliers, we'll talk to you tomorrow.